Welcome to our US Briefing Show. Today, we're diving into some hot topics. First up, President Trump's recent move to double tariffs on steel and aluminum to 50%, igniting a fierce trade war. While supporters say it protects jobs and national security, critics warn it could backfire, raising prices and hurting industries beyond steel. Companies like Coca-Cola are already feeling the squeeze, and past tariffs haven't exactly been a win for employment. It's a complex game of protection versus economic growth. Next, we look across the globe to India, where Prime Minister Narendra Modi is skipping this year's G7 summit in Canada, a first in 6 years. The strained relations between India and Canada, fueled by diplomatic disputes and security concerns, seem to be cooling the diplomatic heat. Modi's absence hints at cautious diplomacy, with hopes for better ties gradually unfolding through dialogue. It's a reminder that international relations can be a delicate dance. Finally, in a move that's stirring controversy, the US government plans to revoke visas for hundreds of thousands of Chinese students. Critics argue this policy targets nationality unfairly and risks damaging educational exchanges that benefit both countries. Harvard alumni and veterans warn that fear-driven policies weaken US global influence and academic strength. Meanwhile, markets in Asia are bouncing back as US stocks inch closer to record highs, showing resilience amid geopolitical tensions. Stay tuned for more updates. CNN reports that President Trump's decision to double tariffs on steel and aluminum imports to 50% has sparked a complex debate across industries. While the move is celebrated by American steel producers as a vital step toward national security and revitalizing domestic manufacturing, it raises concerns among sectors reliant on these metals, including automotive, can manufacturing, and food packaging. The tariffs are expected to increase costs subtly but surely, potentially adding hundreds of dollars to the price of a car and raising grocery prices, which could ripple through the economy. Experts warn that although some jobs in steel may be protected, many more in industries that depend on steel and aluminum could face layoffs, illustrating a risky trade-off between protecting certain manufacturing jobs and risking broader employment losses. The tariffs have already caused prices to rise, with steel prices jumping over 20%, yet automakers and other manufacturers are cautious, knowing that past tariffs have led to increased costs and minimal boosts in domestic production, highlighting the uncertain effectiveness of such protectionist measures. South China Morning Post describes how India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi's anticipated absence from the upcoming G7 summit in Canada signals strained relations between the two countries. Despite recent political changes in Ottawa, including a new government led by Prime Minister Mark Carney, India remains cautious due to lingering tensions over the Khalistan movement and allegations of Indian involvement in the killing of a Canadian Sikh leader. The absence is seen as a strategic move by India, which seeks to avoid endorsing a summit that might not address its core security concerns or improve diplomatic ties. The delicate political landscape in Canada, where pro-Khalistan sentiments are strong among the Sikh diaspora, complicates efforts to repair the relationship, with Indian officials wary of Canadian support for Sikh separatists. Analysts suggest that rebuilding trust will require gradual steps, such as appointing high commissioners and engaging in low-level dialogue, before any high-profile meetings between Modi and Canadian leaders can occur, reflecting a cautious approach to restoring diplomatic warmth. South China Morning Post also highlights how fear-driven U.S. policies are undermining international educational exchange, especially regarding Chinese students. A veteran and Harvard Kennedy School alumnus criticizes the recent U.S. government plan to revoke visas for hundreds of thousands of Chinese students, accusing it of collective punishment rooted in suspicion rather than security concerns. The policy risks damaging U.S. higher education, where Chinese students contribute significantly to academic life and cultural diversity. Personal stories from students and educators underscore that these young scholars bring vital insights and foster critical thinking, enriching classrooms and strengthening international understanding. Instead of fostering openness, the U.S. appears to be retreating into fear, risking long-term harm to its educational institutions and global influence. Advocates argue for welcoming these students, emphasizing that diversity and dialogue are essential for developing future leaders capable of navigating complex international issues, and that policies based on broad stereotypes threaten the foundation of American academic excellence. According to Associated Press, Asian markets experienced a surge in shares as U.S. stocks approached their record highs, with South Korea's Kospi leading the charge, climbing 2.4% following the election of opposition candidate Lee Jae-myung as president. Lee's victory marks the end of months of political upheaval, and his administration's focus will include boosting economic growth, managing government spending, and strengthening trade negotiations with the U.S. amidst a fragile economic landscape. Meanwhile, Japan's Nikkei 225 gained 1%, driven by gains in technology and pharmaceutical sectors, notably Toyota's 2% rise after announcing a $33 billion acquisition of Toyota Industries, though related shares tumbled. Chinese markets modestly increased, with Hong Kong's Hang Seng up 0.6% and Taiwan's TAIEX climbing 2.1%, amid ongoing concerns over President Trump's tariffs, including a 50% levy on steel and aluminum imports, which threatened to inflate prices across industries. U.S. markets also showed resilience, with the S&P 500 nearing its all-time high, buoyed by strong job market data and tech stocks like Nvidia and Broadcom, which recovered from earlier losses. Treasury yields remained steady, reflecting cautious optimism about the economic outlook and the potential for trade deals with China, while oil prices dipped slightly, and currency exchange rates showed minor fluctuations. In the realm of U.S. politics and legal battles, Yahoo reports that a federal judge dismissed a Democratic Party lawsuit challenging President Trump's executive order aimed at asserting greater White House control over the Federal Election Commission, FEC. U.S. District Judge Amir Ali ruled that the Democrats' claims were too speculative to warrant emergency legal intervention, emphasizing that the FEC had not received directives from the White House and pledged to remain independent. The lawsuit, filed in February, targeted provisions requiring agencies to follow the president's legal opinions, which Democrats argued threatened the integrity of election infrastructure and voting rights. The decision marks a setback for Democrats, especially as the Republican National Committee announced its intention to defend Trump's efforts in other related lawsuits. Judge Ali, a Biden appointee, noted that while the case was dismissed due to lack of concrete evidence of interference, the court remains open to future claims if new evidence emerges showing threats to the FEC's independence. This legal development underscores ongoing partisan tensions over election security and presidential influence, with Democrats wary of efforts to politicize the election process. Finally, AP details a disturbing discovery in Washington state, where law enforcement uncovered a cache of weapons and Nazi paraphernalia during a raid in Lacey, near Olympia. The operation, prompted by an assault at Joint Base Lewis McChord and involving the FBI, Army Criminal Investigation Division, and Thurston County Sheriff's Office, resulted in the arrest of 2 suspects linked to Nazi white nationalist efforts. Authorities seized an arsenal of 35 firearms, including an MG-42 machine gun, grenade launchers, explosives, body armor, and ballistic helmets, along with Nazi symbols and flags. Sheriff Derek Sanders highlighted that the suspects were actively involved in extremist activities, and the weapons were staged around the residence, raising concerns about domestic terrorism. The investigation follows a recent violent incident at the military base, and additional details are expected to be revealed in a federal criminal complaint. This case underscores the persistent threat of extremist groups within the U.S., highlighting the importance of law enforcement vigilance and the ongoing challenge of combating domestic terrorism fueled by hate ideologies. Deutsche Welle reports that South Korea has recently undergone a significant political shift as Lee Jae-myung was inaugurated as the country's new president amidst a backdrop of national upheaval. In his inaugural speech, Lee emphasized the importance of healing a deeply divided nation, vowing to restore the struggling economy, which is expected to grow by a mere 0.8% this year, and to rebuild democratic institutions following the martial law crisis instigated by impeached former President Yoon Suk-yeol. Lee's election marks a pivotal moment for South Korea, especially as he navigates ongoing legal challenges and aims to foster peace with North Korea through dialogue, despite the country's recent history of political turmoil and polarization. The United States, while affirming the fairness of South Korea's election, expressed concerns about Chinese influence, signaling a desire for the new administration to maintain strong alliances with Washington, even as China remains South Korea's largest trading partner. The election results, confirmed swiftly by the National Election Commission, reflect a decisive victory for Lee and his Liberal Democratic Party, promising a new chapter for South Korea after months of political chaos, including the impeachment of Yoon Suk-yeol and the fallout from his attempt to impose martial law. Yahoo US highlights the life story of Dale A. Willits, a man whose journey from humble beginnings to military service and community leadership embodies resilience and dedication. Born in Pennsylvania and having lived in Georgia and New Mexico, Dale served honorably during the Vietnam War, later managing apartment complexes with meticulous care. A lifelong Yankees fan, Dale's legacy is carried on by his children and grandchildren, who cherish his memory. His passing at age 77 marks the end of a life marked by service and a passion for sports, leaving behind a family that remembers him fondly. His story underscores the enduring human spirit and the importance of honoring those who have dedicated their lives to service and community. Thank you for tuning in. The content above showcases the latest briefing reports and analytical synopses, thoughtfully curated by the 6Do team. These insights stem from a wide array of reputable media outlets, think tanks, government sources, and specialized experts worldwide. We encourage you to explore these sources for a comprehensive perspective. Keep in mind that while the content may not always align with the official standpoint of 6Do Brief, it's not meant to be taken as absolute directives for decision-making. Comprising seasoned media professionals, learned scholars, and accomplished scientists, the 6Do team embodies a trailblazing, fully independent media entity. To customize 6Do Brief to meet your professional needs, you have the option to subscribe to a diverse array of briefings on our website, 6dobrief.com. Regardless of your location, you can conveniently receive 6Do Brief via email.